Hey, Chris. Thanks, guys. Kia ora whānau, it's 10 o'clock and Georgia is going to open our meeting with a cup here.
One moment, Paula. Pio hora te marino kia whakapapa koina o te moana, hei horahi mā tātou e te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou e tātou katoa, hui e tai.
Kia ora, thank you, Georgia. Welcome to everyone to our Wānaka-Upper Clutha Community Board meeting. It's the 2nd of April, and I'd like to thank those that are attending, staff members, members of the community. We look forward to hearing from some of you in the forum, the public forum session. Thanks to Maddie and Evie for coming from the media, and to Ken Bailey. Ken, thanks for being our executive in residence for the day, or for the morning.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. As we know that Quentin, Deputy Mayor Smith, is partaking in proceedings but won't have voting rights here. The meeting is being recorded, and that's underway at the moment. It'll be published on YouTube and the QRD website in due course. There are no apologies. Are there any members seeking leave of absence in the near future? Cody?
The 15th of the 31st of May.
Thank you.
20-something of April for as long as it takes about 4 weeks.
Okay, well, we probably need a little bit more specifically, Chris. It's a decent
So the
change.
20th until
20th of April until
10th of May.
20th of April until 10th of May. Okay.
And if I've already done mine at the council,
That's a good question.
make a note of
We'll make a note of that. Yeah, thank you for that. So we've got a couple of leaves of absence. All those. So I move that those leaves of absence be accepted. Do I have a second? Thank you, Nicola. All those in favour? Right. And that's carried unanimously. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? There's none today. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the first item, which is matters lying on the table. Hayden, you're going to pop back up, or do you? Yeah, thank you. So as we know, there was a licence to occupy in 31 Wānaka Crescent. We had some interesting backwards and forwards in hardware, if we all remember, and we left this matter lying on the table. Hayden, what's happened subsequently?
Yeah, well, I'm back here today with a revised report in acceptance of the ramp. The design has been substantially changed now after officers met with the applicant on site to talk about their specific site and the issues with that site. So yeah, I'll take the report as read, and if there are any questions, Chair, I'm happy to help with one of us.
Just a brief pause. Okay, so before we do consider it, we need to uplift it from the table. So do I need to move the resolution for uplifting it? Okay, so I'm going to move the resolution that we uplift matters lying on the table, 31 Wānaka Crescent, so that we can actively discuss it. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Kathy. All those in favour? All right, very good. So we've had the pretext from Hayden. Any sort of questions? I'm not sure this will be so contentious, so I won't go around the room, but has anyone got anything they'd like to add or question around this?
Thanks. Yeah.
Damn, appreciate it.
Okay, so it was pragmatic. It was awkward last time. It's been pragmatic. I think we've got a very good resolution that works for the public and works for the landowner as well. Who would like to move? Cody would like to move that that the licence occupied for 31 Wānaka Crescent be uplifted from the table, be accepted. Who would like to second that? Okay, Nikki Gleding. All those in favour? Right, we'll carry that unanimously. So thank you very much, Hayden, and thanks for being pragmatic and working with the landowner around that.
Yeah.
It's very good. Obviously, that was my first matters lying on the table in the last 3 years, but I'll get a little bit more smoother next time. We're going to have a public forum now, and we've got 3 members of the public, or maybe 4. And the first one's online, and we've got Ant and Olivia kia ora, from Lake Wānaka Arts and Culture Charitable Trust. talking about the Performing Arts Precinct. As you know, team, we've got about 3 minutes, and we'd love to. And I know you're meeting with the mayor following your korero with us. So thank you for fitting us into your very busy schedule.
Thank you. My name's Ant Howard. I chair the Wānaka Arts Culture Trust, and I guess the first point is that I represent a highly experienced and competent team that we've assembled to back up this proposal. So we've put in place quite a bit of infrastructure, systems and processes so that we're in a position to move this project forward very professionally. The picture today is very much that we appreciate that the precinct is part of a project in your triennium, and we applaud the vision that you've put forward, and we certainly want to contribute to that as we move. Key point, the district's one of the most creative regions in New Zealand, and it's ranked second in the country for 2 years running. Our creative industries contribute 234 million to the local economy every year and employ nearly 6% of our regional workforce. And for every dollar spent on live performance, an estimated $3.20 flows back into the community. So one of the key points that everyone asks is what we're proposing going to be economically sustainable? And I would just re-emphasise that all the research that we have underway and have checked on does actually confirm that. However, having said that, currently our artists are working around tired and in many respects non-existent infrastructure. Touring performers are bypassing us entirely, and the Lake Wānaka Centre and the library are approaching end of life, and they fall short in terms of accessibility, acoustics and accessibility and affordability. So we've got a world-class creative community without a place to gather. So what we're endeavouring to do, and we're putting this up as a decade, multi-generational beating heart, bringing our community into the future, right? So this isn't just a one-off short-term project. It is all about building a performing arts centre that we'll all be proud of for the generations to come. So the vision is a true cultural anchor for our district, touring a waiwai for our artists, makers, performers, communities. So it's based on a 500-seat theatre, a black box space, exhibition and community learning spaces. And it is designed, as I mentioned before, all around being financially sustainable and based on a creative precinct, which will be diversified revenue streams, venue hire, box office, education and commercial tenancies. So we're working with the community to create the future we'll be proud of, and we're seeking your support to partner with us to deliver that vision. So at the moment, we have a number of people that are self-funding our project, and we're seeking from you guys the support in terms of financial support to enable us to scope and figure out how we make a robust project possible. So we've assembled the team, we've got the project, we've got initial funding. If we're going to do this properly and in partnership with the Community Trust and with QDLC, some funding would be very, very helpful. So fundamentally, that's our request of you people. Very happy to take any questions, but we are up and running. We are well engaged with various members of QDLC. And like you just pointed out, we're meeting with the Mayor and the Acting CEO at 11:30 this morning. So we're certainly...
Thanks, Anne. We're coming up hard against the time. It's been lovely to put a face to the name, and we appreciate that Olivia sent through some background context. I met with John Glover yesterday, and he knew that this meeting was coming up, so looking forward to that. So I think you've continued to keep the opportunity alive and we're going to welcome you back to present to us again when there's a little bit more substantive stuff. Where it's one of our priorities, as you know, one of our core platforms this year. So thanks for the hard work you're doing, and we'll have to draw this particular conversation to a close.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Murray Gifford. Kia ora, Murray. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. Bremer Bay Catchment Group and public forum. We're looking forward over the next 3 minutes to hearing what you've got to say, Murray.
Right, I'm here today to request that the Queenstown Lakes District Council formulate and consider treatment of stormwater into Lake Wānaka. Currently, QLDC typically pipe all road and main runoff from the stormwater pipes that exit into the lake, Bullock Creek, and the Cadrona River. Only a few sites have retention ponds. The Bremer Bay Catchment Group was formed under the umbrella of Wānaka to increase public awareness of water quality in the lake and its gradual decline. But stormwater flows are mostly untreated, advocate for it to be treated, and how urban homeowners can go some way to ensure that only rain goes down a drain. In addition, the group has undertaken some E. coli testing of the water entering Bremer Bay this summer. The good news is that they generally remain soluble. ORC only take one sample from the lake on a weekly basis during the summer in the main bay to check the swimmability of the lake. Typically the water at both the stormwater outlet and the mid bay in Bremer Bay is swimmable except for 48 hours after significant rain. The bay reaches 5 times the swimmable E. coli limit of 250 on 2 occasions this summer, with approximately 10 millimetres of rain fall that caused that. The outfall is over 10 times the E. coli limit. Victoria Grant undertook extensive testing regimes in 2018-2020 as part of a thesis to determine the levels of sediment, E. coli, nitrates, phosphorus, and heavy metals entering the lake via the stormwater. Her paper of 144 pages is publicly available and shows that the stormwater quality under stormwater flows mostly exceed ORC Schedule 15 limits that define the maximum allowable level of nutrients, bacteria, and turbidity needed to maintain good water quality across the region. QLDC in October 24 had E3 undertake similar testing, and their report, as I understand, is also publicly available and shows much the same result. We appear now to have consistent testing over at least 8 years to show that the stormwater pollutes the lake, and is now time to be planning and thinking about solutions to improve the stormwater entering the local watercourses. I request that the Queenstown Lakes Community Board consider some actions that I've noted in minutes of the meeting and won't have time to go over. I challenge you all to visit a stormwater site in a storm and reflect on whether you see this as an acceptable way for stormwater to exit into our lakes.
All right, thank you for the hard work you do. Thank you for keeping that front of mind. It's one of those things that's so important but never really gets on the urgent pile. And so by you promoting it and continuing to advocate strongly for it, for equality, like, we do appreciate that. Thanks for your hard work.
Okay.
Could you email that study that you referred to us, please?
The Victoria one.
Yeah.
Okay. It is on.
Yeah.
Pardon?
What's the name of it again?
Oh, Victoria Grant.
Okay.
Victoria Grant. It's
Thanks,
We'll get Georgia to will liaise with Murray and we'll get that link sent around. Thanks, Murray.
okay.
Got it.
All right. Well, just there was an article the other day where I read that water in the Waikato River is now going green through many of the lakes, Atamuri, Awakuri, Mangakino. It's not swimmable. And you know, these are issues that just creep up on us. And if you don't act soon, then you'll be faced with cleaning up green bays around the lake.
Yeah.
And we get our drinking water.
Okay. Thank you, Murray. A classic case of boiling the frog, and yeah, a point well made.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
That's correct. Morena koutou, ko Clutha Aotearoa Moanga, ko Fourth Te Awa, no Scotland the whole, ko Maki toka whānau, ko Ewan toka ingoa, ko Bike Wānaka toka mai. Morena, everybody. I'm here representing Bike Wānaka. As Sam said, my capacity as president. Ian is here working in the committee as advocacy. And we're really here to just note that our members in the wider community are eagerly awaiting the commencement of the Phase 1 Trail Plan, which I'll remind you was passed in principle at the December Community Board meeting. So thank you for that. And we really want to actually thank the members of the Community Board and councillors for your continued mahi in this space. And noting there's some Parks and Reserve team here as well. It's been a fabulous process, actually, right from Phase 1, consultation, public engagement with community groups like us. It has been really good. As a refresher, our Phase 1 Trail Plan is pretty modest in scale. It involves just a handful of trails which actually already exist. They were being ridden on for years. There's been an interregnum, if you like, and now we look to reinstate them and have people back there riding. There is a wider trail plan which is going to be further discussed today. It's on the agenda, which we've been really enjoying collaborating on. We would note that that is a future plan. There's a lot of aspirational trails on there that probably need some more work to pass through, and we look forward to continuing that. But we won't lose focus on the fact that our priority right now is our Phase 1 trail plan, modest in size, reopening trails that are already there. I mean, look, it's a time of celebration for the community, and we encourage you, as our elected representatives, to celebrate the fact that we're on the cusp of creating a fabulous community asset. It's all there. A lot of work has been done, and we just need to get through those final stages to get that Phase 1 ready to deliver. And we should celebrate the fact that we'll be moving forwards in the framework set out in the Reserve Management Plan, and we'll begin to deliver this incredible asset. We do know that there's already people walking, running, and exploring the new communities of reserve, yet bikers continue to be excluded. We've continued to refine our Phase 1 trail plan, working with other community groups, QDLC, Parks and Reserves team, and the ecologists. We've also been liaising with Okaha and taking phone calls as recently as yesterday on the topic. We're ready to lodge our resource consent, and we hope to begin the very minor works through this winter to carry out Phase 1. Our community has been engaged in this process in good faith, and we look forward to continuing that faith and encourage you to celebrate with us in creating a fabulous asset. Thank you for your time.
Sure, you. We've just come up with 2 minutes, so we do have 1 minute left. You're very nice and succinct. Any questions that for Ian or you?
I do have one.
Go if you like, Nikki.
So there's something in the paper that talks about you or Bike Wānaka, I forget how they phrase it, but it to my mind it was Bike Wānaka, making sure that any unauthorised trail building is remediated. Is that something that you understand as your responsibility or not?
I think we would understand that in working with partnership with the landowner, QDLC, and the Parks and Reserve team, that we would work to remediate that collaboratively. I think it depends on exactly what the scale is. You know, are we talking about kids building a little jump? I mean, we've basically a history of that with Penn Bay, for example. We have a long standing, you know, that's been going for a number of years. There's always going to be little things. We work really quickly, and essentially sometimes it's a case of we'll get some volunteers down there and we'll just quickly remediate something that's small, and it's pretty simple. If it was something that was greater in scale, we'd probably work more closely with the Parks and Reserve team and look to, there might be a machine that's needed to be used or something like that. We'd hope to not get to that point, and Penn Bay has proved it, but we've not had to thus far.
That's perfect. I just wanted to check you were okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks, team.
Yeah.
Well done. That was a public forum. Thank you to those members of the public that took the effort to present to us. Going to confirm the agenda, and now I'm confirming in part an agenda item that I efficiently put into the start of the agenda. Yes.
Just confirm that you're going to add that we've added the last stop by the end of the stop.
Your memory serves you well. We did uplift the licence to occupy it for 31 Manuka Crescent mere minutes ago, and I acknowledge that and the efficiency with which that was done. So we've lifted that from the table. Is there any other changes to the agenda in the meantime? Otherwise, with noting that, I will move that that we approve this agenda item, including the uplift. Do I have a seconder for that? Come on, Cody, help us out. Kathy, No, that was the least amount of hands I've ever had as a board for seconding that. So thank you, Kathy, for seconding that. All those in favour of confirming the agenda? Aye. Anyone against? We'll carry that. Going to move on to confirmation of the minutes. We held that meeting in Hawea on the 12th of February. They've been circulated. Any amendments or changes to that?
Something written down on page 15, but you know, for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. I'm just going to go to page 15 and see if I can find it. No, Leo, I can't. Apologies, Chair. Carry on. Yes.
Would you like any more time, Nikki? Or
No,
was
that's fine. It wasn't a major.
Kathy, do you have something to adjust and amend?
Very minor, but I'm looking at page 11 and the license to occupy for Mount Barker, just with the applicant's last name is misspelled.
Very good.
For completeness, that appears twice.
We will correct that typo in the minutes of the surname of the resident of Mount Barker. Otherwise, I'm going to move that we confirm the minutes from the 12th of February meeting. We have a second. Thank you, Cody. All those in favour? Aye. And we'll carry that unanimously. Thank you. Item 1 we have dealt with, which was 31 Wānaka Crescent. Hayden, would you like to pop back up again? And we'll go to item 2, which is the licence to occupy for 81 West Meadows Drive. Is there anything, Hayden, you'd like to add in outside of the report that's been put in front of us?
And Chair, you'll all note that we've had a recent one on West Meadows Drive as well, recently approved. It's a very similar one to that.
Very good. So earthworks and some containers outside on the beach outside. Has anyone got any questions for Hayden? Comments around that? These will be the sort of items that won't be coming to us in the future, and so let's make the most of it.
Still be here for TRCs, luckily, so that's good.
Temporary road closures.
Temporary road closures. So I'm glad I'll still be.
I know you tried to snuck that one in as well, so you didn't have to come here at all. But we'd miss you if we didn't have.
That's right. No, I would miss you. I'm glad we can still come in for temporary road closures.
Nice to live up for
The only thing I could probably add that I missed from the start was just around the feedback on the other West Meadows one I brought here around protection of trees. We included that in this one, so we've taken on your feedback from that last one.
Thank you for listening to that. Wow. Would anyone like to move this item? Okay, so Cody was going to move that. You're a bit late there. Chris, Cody's going to move that license to occupy for 81 West Meadows Drive be accepted. That grant the license to occupy and note the contents of the report. John is seconding that. All those in favour? Aye. And we'll carry that. Thanks again. Yeah, cheers. See you. Thanks, Hayden. A couple more substantive items on the agenda, and item 3 is the governance agreement for the Wānaka-Upper Community Board and its terms of reference. We've obviously worked with Noel quite a lot in the past, and more recently we've worked with John and with Megan Miller as well. We've workshopped it, done lots of things. Noel, anything to add outside of the paper that's been presented?
Thank you. I'm actually going to hand to John to do that.
Thanks very much. Yeah, just a little bit of background there. So Niall workshop this with the board in September 2025, the previous community board. We then made some updates since then. The 4th of March, there was a second board workshop, which was brought to the current community board. We've made some further updates from there. Thank you for your input in all those sessions, and hope you are now happy with what you have in front of you. There is a correction to make on paragraph 15 of the report, and thank you, Niall. This is why it's nice to have him back on board. Noting that for option 2, which is to not recommend the proposed terms of reference, under advantages, it should say there are no foreseen advantages, as opposed to there are no foreseen disadvantages. So thank you for pointing that out. With that, I will take the report as read.
You always plant some evidence, don't you, to make sure it's been read. And that was very kind of you, John, to do that, and well done to Niall picking it up. Again, we've workshopped this, so I'll just take questions or comments. Nikki, Kathy.
Just on page 77 and on page 90, the wording, and I wasn't at the last meeting, but I had suggested this wording: communicate with community organizations and special interest groups within the community. And my suggestion was, do we need the special interest group language when that's within community organizations? Quite broad. Did that get raised last time?
Yeah, it got raised and it got acknowledged, but didn't warrant it. But wasn't believed by the members to warrant a change. So no, definitely got raised.
Just checking it
because you were away from that section. Nikki Gleding.
Query just around the Legro siphon. Obviously I haven't been sitting at the community board table, so I'm just wondering how that works in practice now.
My understanding,
Yeah,
and actually I might turn around to look at some of the parts, is that it's largely dealt with via ORC. It doesn't come anywhere near the community board anymore.
Sorry, I missed
so we're removing the stuff around the implementation and management plan around Legro siphon control.
Sorry, my
Welcome to the table. I'll let you say if you want to jump up.
Sorry, Dave. So one of the things that's been removed from the delegation table is Legro siphon control. So it seemed at one point in time we ticked off a management plan and we ticked off implementation reporting maybe around Legro siphon control. The note in there is that it's no longer current practice, so it's being removed. But I was just wondering how it became not current practice. And where that's dealt with now.
The Legro siphon work or the
Legro siphon work.
The work itself.
Do we have any responsibility for it?
No, that's not a responsibility of ours.
Is there still a Legro siphon control group?
The siphons are pumped in the lane. Yeah.
Yes, no, I realise that just acting in the water space and working with those groups, I'm wondering.
Members of the Legro siphon control group, or does that still exist?
So through you, Chair, so there's two elements, and Murray's touched on it this morning. We have that Clutha catchment group, and we also, I think you might have mentioned that, Nikki, we have the commitment through ORC, where we are and remain an investor in the partnership of dealing with those pests. So
Okay.
maybe what we need to check for you through the chair is just what does that ongoing look like through the staff that administer and manage that arrangement.
Yeah, and how do councillors
drop an email through Georgia and the chair back to the group.
and how do councillors or the community board have oversight over our investment in that and whether it's sufficient or not sufficient?
Because we have ongoing monitoring, as you know, of what we do around the actual timing of production, removal of the pests. Report back.
Great, yeah, if someone can, and maybe that's community services or maybe it's here, I don't know. But
We'll get it up.
thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Great.
Very good.
And the other question was just around so obviously we're moving the LT license to operators are no longer coming to us, but it just wasn't outlined in the paper. So just for the sake of everybody, how do we specifically, what do you intend to bring to us? And if the reporting back noted that there were some issues with the policy, what's the process then for changing the policy? I'm assuming we would recommend to council changes to the policy, but
yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not.
Maybe isn't there?
Yeah, no, it's not overtly addressed because the LTOs weren't in the delegations previously.
Right. Oh, right.
So there's nothing sort of to technically remove.
Okay, become a current.
But the model is then, I believe, proposed that they will be brought en masse.
6 monthly.
6 months. That's great. Thanks. Just for everybody. Thank you.
Anything else around the governance agreements or terms of reference?
Oh, I did have one other thing actually. It was around the location, species, planting of trees. So that was that doesn't sit with us. You have some discretion, I believe, around that based on what's in the table. But it did say at the discretion of the chair or other nominated representatives of the community board. And I guess what I was wondering is, how do you become a nominated member of the community board to sign off on trees? And I guess there's been some mention from Cardrona around tree species and whether they're appropriate and whether so I was just wondering, just popped into my head that as community representatives of various community associations, potentially there's the ability for us as the local representative to be that person based on what's on the table, because it looks like we can be nominated, but I don't understand the process.
I understand is that the community board can nominate someone
Yeah.
not a nominated community board member. So,
No, I agree.
so, and I think that is for that situation. We've had it in the past where the golf course has done a huge planting, and it came to me, and I shared it with the community board. We got the feedback and put it back through. So I think that process is working reasonably well. I think sometimes we'd like to maybe say, look, an arborist or something like that would be best placed because we are lay people and we don't have that technical knowledge. So I think it's allowing us to nominate someone to provide judgment on our behalf. That hasn't been used before, but I think it was one of those situations where maybe expertise sits outside of the community board for making that.
Okay, it just stated in there other nominated representatives of the community board. So just for clarity,
Maybe by the community board.
no, it says
No, I'm just saying, should it be by?
of the community board. So anyway, I guess my request would be if there is something within our scope of if we're the representative of an area, you would definitely let us know and have some discussion if there was something contentious or potentially contentious.
I can't think of it in an instant where I received information about almost anything, particularly plant species, that I don't forward on to everyone as a whole and then go back to those that have a vested interest, including community associations.
Then your question.
Very good.
Thanks.
Okay, team. I think we're at a position, having this has been workshopped to some extent, that I'd like to move that we note the contents of the report. We recommend to council that the amendments to the terms of reference and delegations for the Wānaka-Upper Clutha Community Board be approved, that we agree the governance agreement that's part of the report, and we delegate myself to sign the approved governance agreement, and we recommend to council that they also via the Mayor approve the proposed governance agreement. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nikki. All those in favour? Aye. Carried. Thanks, team. Thanks for the hard work. It's shaped up really well. That's John. Okay, team. Item 4 on the agenda, the Mount Iron Trail Plan. Kat, who's going to jump up here? Ranger. Yeah. Dave. I think we're all familiar with everyone now, aren't we?
No introductions needed.
Well, there was a time when who was that? Yeah, who's that lad coming over from Queenstown? So part of the crew now. So before I hand over, Kat, look, you have done an immense amount of work in this. I know it's been consuming, and I know it's been tough, and it is really appreciated. I know you've had a team around you, but you have led from the front on this, and it's been complex, and it's been a challenging time in some facets, just with the amount of communication you've had to do, the consultation, the extra work that community board has asked of you. So kia ora, thank you for all your mahi. The paper is in front of us. Is there anything you would like? I think you'd like to just give a little more context to that, and then I'll go around the table. Yeah.
Thanks, Simon. I just thought it would be good to just give a bit of context. Now we've reached this stage where today we're asking whether you want to approve the Mount Iron Trail Plan. So the reason that we've developed this trail plan is to provide that long-term vision for what the future of trails might look like, and allow the input of multiple user groups simultaneously to allow for those different interests. And we also wanted to create a more efficient process ongoing, where we don't need to come back to this community board to approve every individual trail. So the trail plan has been developed over many months, working closely with those groups interested in developing trails, which includes Bike Wānaka, the Upper Clutha Tracks Trust, and the Upper Clutha Lakes Equestrian Access Group. And we've also come to this community board through various workshops and meetings to discuss its development as well. I did just want to touch on the mapping. We have added a page 2 as of yesterday, which is not a change to anything that's already been included, but it's just to provide some more visibility of the uphill and downhill mountain biking trails. And I realised that there's a lot of lines on a map, so I just thought I'd make a few key points about what this actually includes. So the Mount Iron Loop Track and shared walking and biking trail between Old Racecourse Road and the State Highway would remain unchanged in its use. And then what it does is allow the potential for new trails, potentially creating a one-way loop track for horse riding, using some horse priority trails and shared use trails, And it also allows for the potential for some multi-use trails where it's believed to be appropriate and safe. Biking would only be allowed uphill on these trails, so all users would be travelling at slower speeds. I did want to address a couple of concerns that have been coming up in relation to the development of this. If the community board chooses to approve this trail plan, it doesn't mean that all trails will be built immediately or even at all. What it does is provide a framework for decision making over time. And as we know, the only group who are interested in immediately building trails is Bike Wānaka. And as I said, those are the stage 1 mountain biking trails that the community board has also already provided approval on principle for. So council will be focused on maintaining the existing trails on Mount Iron. If groups want to approach council in the future to build trails aligned with the trail plan, there'll still be an approval process with council officers and assessment against the reserve management plan that would happen at that time, and potentially a resource consent process as well. And then the other one is just around safety of trail crossings. That is kind of at the next stage of development of any specific trails and would be informed by technical expertise. And we do have examples in other trails in the district where this is successfully working at the moment. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ken. Sure. John.
It's not so much a question, but I just want to talk through this whole conceptual plan. So before we discuss it really in any detail, I think it's important we once again consider the purpose of the plan, what it seeks to achieve, what it authorises, and whether it's actually a requirement of the reserve management plan, and finally, what approving the trail plan will actually facilitate. The purpose of its conceptual plan, the purpose of the conceptual plan is to provide a holistic view of what trails of all types could possibly be developed in the short, medium and long term. Now, it's not a prescriptive plan of what will happen. It's intended to provide a concept of how a range of various trails could be developed in a manner that will not inhibit the development of other types of trails. There is clear pressure from various trail users to develop trails, and the danger is if these are submitted in an ad hoc manner with no overall concept, then there is a real risk that the first trails developed could restrict or prevent other types of trails being created subsequently. The conceptual plan seeks to achieve a broad, holistic approach that considers how various trails can potentially be developed in a way that is integrated with and not restrictive of other types of trails in the future. It is conceptual and subject to review and possible amendments as individual trail plans are received and then fully assessed under both the Reserve Management Plan and the Resource Management Act or its replacement. Note that there's no specific requirement under the Reserve Management Plan to prepare a trail plan or conceptual plan. This has simply been proposed as a method to ensure that potential trail development is enabling of multiple users and to prevent the risk that the first trails developed might inhibit the development of trails of other user groups. Let's be clear, the plan does not authorise or approve any potential trail that it contains. These will be individually assessed under the Reserve Management Plan and the Reserve Management Act when they are submitted by the trail user groups concerned. Note these trails will be funded and maintained by the user groups concerned rather than council. Approving the plan does no more than facilitate the submission of individual trail applications in broad alignment with that plan. At the submission stage, proposed trails will be fully assessed under objectives and policies of the Reserve Management Plan and will also require resource consent. Both of these processes are vigorous and will require an ecological report and consultation with Kaitahu. In developing the trail plan, there's been significant engagement with interested parties, including Kaitahu, and this has shaped the development of the plan. Now, we should note there has been a very late submission from Okaha, which raises concerns regarding the following: level and type of recreational activity proposed, how increased use may affect the remaining natural areas, effects on lizards and skinks, concerns that some user groups may be excluded through too great an intensification of the trail network, and a desire to see the finalised ecological assessment from Ferika to help them understand the full ecological implications of the post-trail network. And wishing to see the trail plan consider the full range of issues being cultural, ecological, geological, and long-term landscape considerations. However, These issues are all fully covered in the reserve management plan under the following objectives. Objectives 5.8, facilitate Mama Whenua participation to ensure Kaitahu Whanui values are embedded in the decision-making process in relation to the management of the reserve. Policy 6.52, ensuring that planning and other activities do not have an adverse effect on the significant natural areas and Kaitahu values. Policy 6.55, protect habitat for indigenous animals, including lizards, moths, and other invertebrates. Policy 6.58, require ecological assessments prior to the development or planting when appropriate, which will be in most instances. So all these issues that have been raised as concern will be addressed at the individual trail application stage and are fully covered by the objectives and the policies of the Reserve Management Plan. The Whārika Ecological Plan is being prepared in respect of the overall values of the reserve, of which trails are just a small part. A specific ecological report in respect to the Bike Wānaka Stage 1 mountain bike tracks proposal is being prepared for assessment under the Reserve Management Plan and as part of resource consent. And this will be assessed together with Whārika ecological report. Both of those processes require Kaitahu consultation, and this would clearly appear to be the appropriate time for these issues to be addressed, as that is when the trails may or may not be approved. So to conclude, the conceptual plan, if or when approved by the board, does not give permission for any possible trail identified in that plan to be constructed. Detailed applications will need to be prepared for assessment when groups wish to submit the applications to develop trails. It's important that we acknowledge the concerns raised by Okaha as we consider approving the conceptual trail plan. But we should remember that the appropriate stage for these concerns to be considered and addressed is at the specific application stage. These cannot be assessed effectively when only a conceptual framework of potential trails and reserves exist at the moment. We can approve the conceptual trail plan today without removing or reducing Kaitahu's ability to have their input considered when the trails are proposed. Furthermore, I strongly believe we should approve it today. If we don't, we are just requesting staff to spend more time and council resources trying to assess and anticipate the detailed effects of trails that are only concepts. That's not a good use of staff and council resources, to ask them to do something that they don't and can't have the required information to fully assess at this time. I urge the community board members here to trust staff to administer the reserve management plan correctly and approve the conceptual trail plan today so that assessments can take place when detailed trail applications are made.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the work that's gone into what you just shared there. Nikki.
Oh, okay. I think John's kind of hit on the nub of the issue. It's almost like under the RMA, if you approve a district plan, there's an assumption that you have dealt with natural hazards, etc., etc. When commissioners come to make decisions underneath, and this is not the same forum, but they can assume that the concept has been deemed, and in this case, the things that would apply would be safe, that Kaitahu values have been taken into account. I guess I'm interested in hearing from you, because you will be making, if this is approved, you will be making the decisions that sit underneath it. To what extent, because there's layers of decision making here, I believe that our decision has to take all these things into account, and then your decisions down the track will also take those things into account. So what weight does our approving the concept plan today have around things like deeming of the concept to be safe, deeming the trails and their location to have already dealt with conceptually the issues that Mana Whenua might have?
So I think at a high level, we are saying that some of those things have been considered at this stage at a high level. But obviously then, as you're saying, there's another layer of decision making which will get into that detail, because at the moment we have lines on a map, but that needs to be translated into, well, what kind of trail, how wide will it be, you know, how much construction would happen, and all of those things will impact on things like Kaitahu values or ecological values.
Off the back of that, given that we've got lines on a map, would you say the further decision making around whether Kaitahu values are met or whether safety is met comes down to not the location, but the design, so location has been agreed as, and by approving this plan, we've already given you that direction, and the discretion that you would have around meeting Kaitahu values would be in the detailed design of maybe where the curves go and various things, but not to move the location, for example. So if they did not want trails that high on the hill, you would say, well, it's already been approved and councillors have already deemed.
No, so I think what we would be doing would be working with those groups as we looked at the detailed design. And so we would be starting from this. But yeah, if we got on site with an ecologist and they're like, there's an important plant here, we would move that line, working with the various groups and parties to ensure that it did, you know, meet the overall requirements of the reserve management.
If Kaitahu said you need to move the trails further down the hill, would you be able to do that?
Yes, that would be a discussion that would be had. Yeah.
Thank you. I do have some more questions. Hopefully they're not too long. Review and reporting. So there's nothing in here. We're just agreeing the plan, but we haven't got any direction around how we will oversee the implementation and how it's going, how many resource consents and how many issues that you're having. How do you foresee us oversight of how effective the trail plan is, whether you're encountering issues, whether we need to change some things? How does it get back to the table for some oversight? Because I would, for me personally, I'd be looking to see some sort of, I don't know, just a yearly come back to the table and let us know how things are progressing, how your discussions with mana whenua are progressing on various
I would suggest that the quarterly update that we had from Parks would be a great, when we have all those slides, that we would use that forum, which we've got locked in for quarterly, that would be the forum that this would be.
So that would be a useful forum to actually come back and update the board on. How that information, how we collect it, we would have to go and work that out. Okay, but what we do have is we have people as a staff member that's appointed to look after all that sort of mountain biking, you know, Stephen here. So he often gets feedback anecdotally, or we might get stuff formally through the RFS system, for example. There's a whole range of feedback mechanisms.
Okay. My next one was around because safety is a big thing. I feel like when my layer of decision making, I still have to deem this safe. And there are ways to mitigate that. I just want to ask some questions around it to kind of, we have talked about this when we had a little walk around in terms of incident reporting and making it safe, making it easier for emergency services to get. So have you had any thoughts around how you'll track the incidents and how you'll make it easier for emergency services to potentially locate people within this trail network if they do have an injury?
So, excuse me, following our site visit the other day, I rang Andrew Bailey, who's the Southern South Island Ops Manager for St John, had a discussion with him around, hey, there's going to be some increased recreational activity happening on Mount Iron, and we would love to work with you around what that access looks like currently, and if there's any improvements that can be made. So we're looking at basically doing a bit of a site visit with their team and getting them up there to see what that would look like. Yeah, which is basically what we do with all the other reserves as well.
That's great. So I'm just and look, this is getting into the operational, but I just thought something that allowed people to QR codes for incident reporting potentially on signs, numbered signs, so that when someone has an incident, they can let people know where they are, and then they could be easily tracked.
Yeah, and look, we have a great relationship with, as an example, Wānaka, who provide us with feedback if they are seeing things or noticing things through their community. They provide us with that. The same thing, Queensland Mountain Bike Club or Queenstown Trails. There's just kind of a bit of a feedback loop that happens there, and through that process, we work through whatever those issues are.
Okay, so just on top of that,
as opposed to the more formal one that comes through council.
Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
just the walkers aren't attached to that. And
yeah,
walkers are generally quite individual.
Can we just clarify what we say about your things when you talk about location and incidents? What are you talking about? Just knowing that an incident happens, were you
just an idea?
Yeah. Okay,
but something like we are going to have signs everywhere. That's pretty clear. Those signs could have QR codes attached to them, so that if you did have a near miss, if someone was walking and said, well, this isn't right, and they could do the QR code, send the incident report, you know, what happened, why, any suggestion, whatever, through to a system.
I think that's a good idea. And you should take that on board.
And then you could number the signs, right? 1, 2, or at the intersections, not each sign, but each intersection or major so that if there was an incident or if there's an emergency, someone can call emergency services and say,
We need to so we
Yeah.
don't need to set up an individual system for response. Okay, there's the 111 system, and there's good coverage up on the hill. We don't need to set up and we don't, because there'll be one system will provide the response, which will either be the ambulance or will be certain.
To Nikki's point, I think it's a valid point that I'd encourage you guys to take on. It's like I've just had an accident. I'm on Mount Iron. It's like, oh, the hell on Mount Iron. It's like I'm near signpost 13 or something like that. And so that's the operational thing that you'll be. And if Wānaka understands, because they run ski fields and everything else like that, it's a way of just taking what is a nondescript area and giving some
it's like having an address.
So
No, I'm complimenting the thing, not saying it'll be done through the 111 system. The signage stuff, where the location and where they are.
Yeah.
We can do that on the hill, but it'll be run through the 111 system. We don't have to set up our own system.
I'm not suggesting that. No, there were two things there. There was one, providing easy location of
That's fine.
and then the other thing was providing a system where people can feedback. Now, whether that's linked to our Let's Talk Fix It thing, but I was just suggesting a QR code, not for injuries, obviously, but for reporting incidents.
Again, so we'll just link it into the existing RFS system.
This is all just about me deeming it to be safe. So
what's your experience? I think that's landed well.
Thanks. I probably have some other questions around associated facilities and things, but maybe other people would like to ask some questions before I hold the whole meeting.
Thank you. Chris, how do you feel? No. What do you think? Actually, let's rephrase it. Your turn to speak on the Mount Iron Trail plan.
I can't believe we both got in the management plan. It seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. That really helps. Although I was reasonably confident the whole way through that the process we're going through is going to do what we hoped when we were sitting down and going through all the pages and pages of people's requests, wants, needs, and dislikes. And I think we just need to get the communication out to the community focused on the fact that this is what might happen. And one of the biggest things that we talked about when doing the management plan was what's safe. And that was one of the things that came out in a lot of the submissions as well. And we tried to think, okay, no bike trails, cross walking trails, and I know that doesn't work. So each one that goes through this process will, I think, actually come out right or correct in its form, and hopefully do what everyone wants it to in terms of getting up and getting down safely, and not breaking your phone or putting a whole trousers on them, like I did this morning. Yeah, I think it's actually going to come together really, really nicely. Maybe not quite as fast as some people think it might, or some people hope it will.
Thanks, Chris. Nicola. Kathy?
Just general thinking? Is that what we're after?
Well, we're going to have to make a decision soon, so you can either ask questions or just make an observation.
Might be some questions that come out, but I guess it is what I want to say is that I feel there's a lot to learn about this, isn't there? And you guys have been working on it for ages. The previous community board worked on it for ages. So I'm new to the mix, and even in the last few months, I feel like I'm a long way in understanding the complexities of this whole process. And certainly foremost in my mind, I mean, this reserve management plan that I has become one of my best friend. And so I really understand, I've spent a lot of time looking at those guidelines, which guide my thinking. And what I find myself a little stuck on sometimes and have in this process, and you've seen it, is balancing the, guidelines like consider new recreation opportunities where they do not conflict with existing uses and a consistent character of the reserve, which tells me we should be open to new user groups over time, some of which we probably can't even anticipate, as we sit here. And then that we also have that really important in this, what weighs quite heavily is responsibility for ensuring safety. And it makes me think about, as a governor, we're responsible for monitoring, establishing a risk register, having monitoring risk. We can't eliminate risk on a mountain, But it is our responsibility to mitigate the risk as much as possible. So we have lots of policies and procedures in place to ensure that happens, and that's a lot of what your job is. I will also say that I feel that the process we've been through alongside you has been quite collaborative, and when we've had a lot of questions, you answered them. And I am convinced that safety is your priority concern, and that helps me feel comfortable. So many times these things boil down to language and communication. And I think the fact that when we put the lines on paper and when we use the word plan, and we don't always qualify the plan, it does seem like a fait accompli. And so I think it's really helpful, Kat, for you to keep, for you to said today, and we keep telling ourselves this is something that's aspirational. It's highlighting where the potential trails and tracks might be over the next decades. I just wonder whether could we, and I'm anticipating all the questions that have come and will continue to come from the community about this as it rolls out over those decades. And in particular right now, when people don't have the benefit of that context and storytelling every time they come across a bit of paper. So that's, to me, the missing link. Is there something we could do with the language that makes it easier for people to understand right away that this is actually the words that have been used today, a conceptual framework for trail planning? And I'm literally wondering, can we call it, instead of Mount Iron Trail Plan, can we call it the Mount Iron conceptual trail plan concept, or conceptual trail plan, knowing that we can still approve in, not just in principle, but actually approve the stages as they come to us. So for example, the bike bump was stage 1 that we approved in principle, I'd be comfortable approving that, you know, as stage 1. So I guess I'm asking the question and I'm revealing what I've been thinking about, because this is a biggie, and
Are you talking about name change?
I'm talking about the name change for the
So
plan.
I think that's, we can easily answer that. There's nothing prohibiting us changing, putting it in the title, or putting it in the prelude about what its intent is.
I just think it would solve a lot of the challenges that we are literally, right now encountering, and it would help us tell the story that this is a plan of what could happen, and it provides that conceptual framework. But I think that's the best way for us to understand what we're talking about here.
Legal shift as well.
Thank you. Cody, your turn to share.
How far context do I go? I just want to celebrate in some way, the vision of our deputy mayor for actually council acquiring this and to building community assets. When I was like 10, 11, 12, we used to bike down
Last
the
year.
road. I used to build a lot of bike jumps down at Albertown jump park.
Oh, you're responsible.
Yeah, exactly. So after like breaking my arm 3 times in a year, I sort of gave up biking for a while, and then now the trails that are built are just phenomenal, and it's much harder to hurt yourself. Thankfully, it's still not impossible. There's plenty of opportunity, but I think the sophistication of how things are done is just chalk and cheese for what it was, 20 years ago. Back in the kid days. And I think the tone that we've taken on this is there's a lot of excitement, and we've tried to just be as open-minded as possible, how we can be accommodating to all these different user groups. I think creating a long-term vision that then ensures that we don't step on our own foot when we're doing these first initial stages is a really great way of moving forward. And I think the work's been quite conscientious in terms of trying to find the balance and ensure that there's public safety. I know that we had the same level of care and thought when it came to the management plan, especially around horses, thinking, there is always going to be a potential of risk, and how can we, be open-minded to the idea, but be sensible to the fact of public safety and all the other stuff. So every step of the way, it's been a very considered and, a lot of effort gone into it. And I think that I'm totally comforted by the fact that there is just an overwhelming appetite to really make sure that there's great consideration for public safety, for ecological values, for all user groups, and feel more than happy that we're striking a good balance.
Sure, thank you, Cody.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions. Well, firstly, I think it's really important to note this is iterative, and the fears of people that it will suddenly result in are just not the case. This will be staged, it will be iterated, it will be, that first plan, is much less scary than, the total plan for people with. So just wanted to keep that in mind. There's a couple of things I was just a little confused as. So one was that stage one seems to imply that there's a proposed horse trail, and it also says that you will provide opportunity for horse riding. But there's a couple of aspects to that. As far as where there isn't a proposed horse trail to be built, and that the management plan was silent on, that there's no horse trail that's been assessed or, is proposed at this point in time. So I just was unclear as to what the management plan, I believe, stays silent on horses. Although it says trails could be, it doesn't say they're prohibited or enabled, but I don't understand how it will provide an opportunity when there hasn't been a proposal for a horse trail and that hasn't been assessed.
So to answer your question about stage one, we've left it on the map because potentially in the future, if there was horse riding, this would form part of the loop trail. But in relation to stage one, it would become a shared use trail between walking and biking. It wouldn't just allow horse riding on this tiny section.
So
does that make sense?
Yes. So therefore, it should be removed off. It shouldn't be referred to as proposed on that stage one plan.
Yes, I could update that to be a bit clearer.
Delete the proposed bit because it's not proposed.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we could also note if the board is minded to approve option one, then that it may provide opportunity, not will, because we just don't know. So just change that word in the recommendation.
Yeah. And then
and because there's all that thing, as was highlighted, that the bike club, this enables the bike club to make an application that to be assessed on its merits. Now, for a horse trail to be assessed on its merits, it would take a horse club to make an application, put a whole bunch of work into doing that, and find a way to fund it if there was physical work required. And equally, as we've discussed previously, there may be other conditions around that. Maybe an event-based thing, and that wouldn't necessarily. So I think just some of that wording could be tidied up, if that's okay. So remove the proposed and say may, subject to an application.
Yeah, so I guess it's like the whole trail plan. It shows the potential for trails in the future. It doesn't mean it will happen.
Yeah. Well, that's what wording is important.
Yeah, we haven't yet received or understand that one is imminent to build trails for horse riding, but it allows for that potential in the future.
That's really clear. And the other thing, I just wanted to reflect on those operational questions that we have, and that we have literally hundreds of kilometres of bike trail through the district and thousands of kilometres through the country that don't require individual location identifiers and things like that. That's just simply not how emergency services work, nor would they be able to accommodate that within an emergency scenario. It actually wouldn't help because the system isn't designed to work that way. What they can do is if someone rings up, they can find the phone, they know exactly where it is at any point in time. And they can send messages to send a location back. They can, there's dozens of different ways they can locate people, and we just simply don't need extra tools that don't work in the broader context. So I just wanted to highlight that isn't, and it's a discreetly operational question. It's not a strategy and policy question, which is what we're doing. So thank you. But appreciate the work you've done. Appreciate it's complex. And I think that stage one plan is useful in mitigating the fears that of what the future plan identifies this opportunities and that it will iterate in time. Thank you.
Look, I'm fully supportive, 110% supportive of this trail plan. I think the depth of deliberative conversation and intention that we put into this is amazing. I just think we put it into road safety. You know, it's amazing that we're talking about this and all this abstract stuff. We focus on kids on bikes and cars and people crossing roads and stuff like that. Safer urban environment, that's to the side. I fully trust you guys, 110%. I know the pedigree that you've come from. I know how serious you've taken this. I know the collaborative relationship you've struck up with the Tracks Trust, in particular in Bike Wānaka. It fills me with a sense of absolute conviction this is the right thing to do. Like all these things, when there's change, and it has been continuously over my term, last term, this term, that I believe the only one thing that will come back and haunt us is why didn't you take so long to make this happen? It'll just be it'll end up being part of the recreational fabric, the stage one. Here, we won't even think twice about it. It'll be celebrated, it'll be enjoyed, it'll have its spike of interest right at the start, and then it'll just be part of another thing that people do over time and everything. And I feel that we really are focusing on this as if it's going to be some absolutely major change. We have to put it in context. It's the reinstatement of some paths that used to be there that will allow people in the community have choices to where they recreate. And I think we'll just be accepting it in a couple of years' time as being a great asset, and we won't think any more of it. So I appreciate the hard work you put in. I'm fully supportive of the trail plan. So I'm going to move. So I'm going to, if this is okay, I'm going to move the motion that we hear me out, that we note the contents of the report and we approve the Mount Iron Trail plan. So I'd like to put that on the table. Nikki, you've got some other things.
Well, I thought there might be a few more questions, but I do have two more questions.
Okay, shoot.
Awesome, thank you very much. So one of them is just with the associated facilities at the end of near Hidden Hills. So in terms of toilets potentially and dealing with parking, how are we proposing to deal with that? Is there another paper that's going to come to full council? Is a discussion we're going to have in the Community Services Committee? Because I take the point of submitters that people do need to go to the toilet. I take the point that, you know, they may well do that at the end of the trail in the bushes and their residences nearby, and we know how that impacts people. You know, freedom camping has had the same effect. So I don't want to approve this not knowing that there is a pathway to discussing these things, whether it be, you know, marking lines down the side of the streets, can't park there, putting a toilet at the bottom. Is that on the radar to deal with?
So we have already had a conversation with the Hidden Hills Association, looking at potential marking on the road, just to manage that road safety aspect. And any changes will come to this community board from the roading team in terms of changes. So you'll be able to make a decision on those. In relation to toilets, we have ongoing general toilet budgets in the long-term plan, but obviously any toilet here would need to be prioritised against the need for toilets and other reserves as well.
Okay, so that will be put into the mix too.
It would be in the mix.
So there's part of that monitoring you talked about. You know, we'll probably just keep on monitoring what's going on in terms of public feedback, RFSs, and then we'll have a decision about where that sits in terms of the priorities of new toilets.
Right, okay. And last question, just when it comes to making changes, because like the overall question is, in what circumstances might this trail plan come back to us for change? So if you're seeing safety issues or something like that, and you have to reduce a user group potentially on a trail because there's conflict, at what point would it come back to us? What is significant enough a change for it to come back for decision?
Would you like me to have an answer to that?
Feel free, Ken.
Yeah, Councillor, it's a really valid point. When you get into that operational space, one of the key challenges in the Cats and the Stevens and the Browns have navigated well in other networks, Project Tohu, Coronet for us, is what happens if an agency falls over or a community group falls, and what are we left with? An asset, particularly in terms of the ongoing maintenance. So what we have done in that space is the previous Community and Services Committee, we had a very similar blueprint approach as what we've experienced and modelled a lot from our time across other networks. We have made sure that there would be key milestone touch points so that committee would be informed about when we now need to make a decision change about how we take forward the ongoing maintenance or the ongoing investment, or who is now committed to take that trail forward. Because one of the things is the chair and yourselves as a group have identified all the stakeholders, regardless of their point of interest, are pretty much, we're very fortunate in this district that they've got a lot of in-house horsepower that understands what they are delivering, maintaining and engaging. So we do partner with the community, but if for any reason they cannot deliver or meet their obligation, it might be under a licence to occupy or any other ways that we've got an agreement in place, we would expect to come back to this board.
Okay, that's great. I just want to foreshadow, because I know there's going to be a motion, but I'd just like to foreshadow that I'd like to include something in the resolution, either via amendment or substantially at the start, around this coming back to us either quarterly or half yearly or yearly, just reporting, so that it stays visible in the initial phases. Down the track, it may become something that everybody's used to and we can drop it off.
Are you comfortable? We have already established a rhythm with the parks team to coming to us on a quarterly basis, and that is hard locked in.
And that will be locked into that.
And we can say, because of the direction, as you know, it's like we want the focus to be on this and we want the focus to be on that. So I think the focus on
no interest, we can probably I'm just thinking, we could probably broaden that out and give you an update about the requests from groups about in terms of wanting to build trails. We can give you an update on the issues that we're hearing about and give you some feedback around that.
Yeah, look, I think that's regular already. And look, I think it'll, to be honest, just give it time. I think as long as we've got we've established the routine and regularity of that, we will reshape. I think what's going to be important to us when we first come back is like, how's things progressing? And then after it's been up and running, it's like, how are things been operating, those sorts of things. So I think that will change, and maybe some of the data or some of the feedback that we want will change as this matures. But I'm confident there doesn't need to be a resolution, because I'm confident we've got a forum for these guys to present, and as a chair I have the ability to influence what we want to hear as a community.
Right, based on the commitment of the chair, I'll back down on that front.
How collaborative it's been in recent months, I guess. I mean, just at a practical level, surely you guys will come to us if you've got something that you're stuck on, right? And I mean, in addition to, or that you want further input on, right? I mean,
that's exactly what we do. We're limited by the timeframes. We always reach out. We use the community board as a good start.
I'm conscious of time. So sorry, Dave. Sorry. I'm conscious of time. We're running well behind on the meeting. But this is important. I would like to, if I moved this motion that we note the contents of the report and we approve the Mount Iron Trail Plan, would I be reading the room that we could make this happen?
Would we consider adding the word conceptual to do that?
Okay, so I'm going to move the contents of this report, and I'm going to ask that the trail plan have conceptual in its heading. Also note there was 2 requests from others around the table about removing propose and to change from will provide to may provide. If those amendments are adopted, would I have a sense that we can pass this through? Okay, who would like to second?
On that point, I'll be very keen to put it in, approve the conceptual Mount Iron Trail Plan, to actually put it into the resolution. I think it's an easy change.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit chicken and egg, because we're approving something that doesn't actually exist at the moment. What we did, the conceptual trail plan doesn't. The paper that was put to us was a Mount Iron Trail Plan. I think we are putting in there that once this is approved, it will be known as the conceptual Mount Iron Trail Plan. But that's the only thing we can't approve something that doesn't exist at the moment, but it will exist as soon as we pass this resolution.
Yeah, it's fine with that.
Who would like to second this?
Yeah.
Okay, John is seconding that. All those in favour? Aye. Anyone against? Carried. Thank you, Peter. Item 5 on the agenda, retrospective approval of the Aurora easement. Who's Matt? Good on Matt, how's things?
Good, thank you. I'm optimistic my item won't take as long as that one.
Well, you've got the challenge out there, Matt. Very good. Is there anything you'd like to add to this paper.
I just want to clarify that this isn't retrospective approval. This is recommend to council to approve the easement.
No.
Work has been done, but we haven't granted the easement, so it is retrospective in that respect. I'll take the rest of the report as read.
I'm happy. Yeah, Cody's moved. I saw Nicola just raise her hand. Nicola's there, so we're moving that to the Aurora easement over Cripple Place in favour of Aurora Energy be approved. All those in favour?
Right.
Carried unanimously.
Ah.
Now you'd be on a Formula One team for gas and tyre changes. They would be envious of which the place. The chair's report is item 6, and there's a number of things in there. One of the bits of community engagement that has sort of been happening for all of us has been across freedom camping, and I just wanted to socialise with the board whether we're comfortable, and I've drafted something up here around the fact that we've heard from a number of members of the public that Allenby Place and Beacon Point still is contentious for freedom camping. There's transgressions regularly, and we're seeing video evidence of that. Levels of compliance, non-compliance are high. Complaints received are regular and high. So I'd like to have, as part of the chair's report, a recommendation from the board. We can't make a resolution because it's not on the paper and it doesn't warrant that, but we recommend that the Wānaka-Upper Clutha Community Board recommends that the Chief Executive of QDLC invoke a temporary prohibition on further freedom camping at Allenby Place and Beacon Point until the partial review of the freedom camping bylaw is completed late in 2026, and that we request that staff report back with longer term options through that review process. We're not seeking because we're not moving. Are people comfortable that we share that with the with staff? And Ken I'll give this to Ken to pass on to the CEO.
I just want to be clear that my reasoning isn't because it's non-compliant. My reasoning is because I believe that under the Act there are criteria around impacts on access and impacts on health and safety and the area. It's not because of non-compliance, it's because of those things that I believe we should be making this recommendation.
Yeah, just to back that up, I think all the reasoning that went into the temporary prohibition at Allenby Place, which cited health and safety and access, are the reasons. Same reasons for this.
Are we comfortable with this?
Maybe you add that,
yes,
that it's not about non-compliance, it's about those that there are issues that are relevant under the Act that would require prohibition.
Very good. They will be in the minutes. Something I prepared earlier. You wouldn't mind sharing?
I'll get a copy of the minutes and update the Chief Executive.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for everyone's community engagement reports and showing that physically engaging with a wide spectrum of the community, doing our jobs, and thank you for everyone who's contributed to that. There was also amendment to the minutes that you'll note from the previous meeting. Is there anything else around chair report before I move my motion that we note the contents of the chair's report? Anyone second that for me? Thank you, Nikki. All those in favour? We'll carry that. Very good. So we will conclude the meeting at 11:18, and we'll conclude with the karakia. Thank you.
Unuhia, ki te uri tapinui, ki wātia, ki māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, i te ara takata, koe rā I runga, whakaria aki ki runga kia tina, hui e tāi.
Yeah. Good, thank you, Georgia. So meeting closed. Thanks to everyone who's hung in there. 11:19. We're going to have a 5-minute break, and then we will roll straight into Simon here. Yeah, good on Simon. And if you guys want to come up, we'll get underway with the community infrastructure conversation. Yeah.